outside of the hospital and the clinics there needs to be something else for the community, and it needs to work. Nurses know what to do. They know, a lot of times, especially after a nurse has worked a year or two, they get a report on a patient, or somebody tells them some stuff. They're like, oh yeah, I see what's going on. Let's try this and this. In the hospital, I said, when you put your hands on people, they feel how you feel, and you're feeling how they feel, and you're in each other's bubble, and you don't even know it. Try to stay in that love frequency and stay connected to yourself, and try not to go outside yourself too much, except to your community that you resonate with, because it is going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. Yeah. It's just that it's very bumpy right now.
So, Haere mai from my Heart Place to your Heart Place and to the Heart Place Hospital podcast.
Beautiful. Hello.
So
nice to see you, Jack.
Yeah, you too. And haere mai is welcome in Māori, our national language. So, I think I'm just going to start introducing you, because you're not from here. You're not from New Zealand. You're from the other side, from the Northern Hemisphere. So we've got quite a great introduction here. And you and I we've met through the consortium, a loving organisation, which I've been part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So welcome to our podcast, Heart Place Hospital. And today's guest is Anne, a registered nurse with over 30 years of experience in major medical centres and community health systems. Your career began at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, where you worked in neuroscience and intensive care unit, and later continued in Virginia. So your journey has been driven by a simple but profound question: why don't people heal? This curiosity led you to discover the American Holistic Nurses Association and a more integrative approach to care. So you've dedicated your career to healthcare reform, supporting elderly and low-income and immigrant communities, and you're also a leader in mental health advocacy for healthcare professionals, a woman, moderating peer groups and providing virtual coaching to help nurse managers reduce stress and find balance. You founded the Virginia chapter of the American Holistic Nurse Association, and you've collaborated with Cabana for the past 3 years. So I'm not sure what Cabana is, so it'd be good to find out what that is. So looking ahead, you're embarking on an innovative project that blends technology and nursing expertise. So you've partnered with 25 nurse coaches, and you're introducing a smart ring that detects stress before it's felt. This technology, paired with an app, delivers personalised care plans and connects users to a healthcare community that understands their unique needs. And we're hoping in this episode, and for you to share insights into the challenges nurses face, from burnout to systemic limitations, and how understanding these pressures can lead to meaningful change. And hopefully we can also discuss how the 3 principles approach can help lower stress and transform perspectives. That's all.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah, so if we don't cover it all, people can find you, and we'll put the links to how people can find you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I always kind of start with everyone, like, what led you to here now? So we've heard a bit of a bio, but what sort of led you into nursing, and then what's kind of what is the breadcrumbs that led you to where you are now?
Yeah, well, listening to that, I mean, how I feel is I spent most of my time in intensive care nursing and trauma, is neuroscience, ICU, stuff like that. And I was meant to move out of it, and I'm very stubborn. I just keep on going. But in 2010, I had a stroke, and it wasn't a big stroke, but it was enough to make me say, because by then I had been in holistic nursing, and on my holistic journey was, oh my gosh, what is going on? Because I was 49 years old. And to me, when we have health issues, sometimes we need to look around at our life and see what's going on. So I started doing other things and basically tripping over myself for 10 years. But the thing about why people don't heal is big. And the thing about the healthcare systems, and I don't think generally it's a lot different from country to country. I really don't, because we're not looking at why people don't heal. Because what people do is they want to fix things. But what I came to realize, I learned the 3 principles during my nurse coaching studies, and it really helped me to see that we need to get things from the inside. And when they change on the inside, and it's kind of complicated. It's not something we understand right away. But when we get an aha moment, like we're going along in our life and all of a sudden realize, oh, well, that relationship isn't what I thought it was, or this job isn't what I thought it was, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this. That's an aha moment that we don't forget. So
I've recently heard of this great definition of that auspicious bewilderment. So it's a moment where you're kind of like, oh, actually, is this where I'm meant to be? Yeah, auspicious bewilderment.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what happened to me when I got sick. I was really not in great shape, and then I remember the nurse telling me what happened, and I remember thinking, "Oh, I'm supposed to be telling somebody that. What's going on?" Yeah. So that's that. I did a lot. I tried a lot of things up to then. But what I realized was I needed, and I love teaching healthcare providers and nurses how to work in the system while it's transforming. And mark my words, it is transforming. And, isn't it? You can probably see that, right, Jackie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. It's just that when people are working in the health system as a nurse, a doctor, any type of healthcare provider, they're so busy and they're so strapped in this system of constraints that they can't see it. Mm-hmm. And they think they're the only one. So what I do is I work with a company called Cabana. And Cabana, if you work for a health system in the United States and you have Cabana as your benefit, that person has an app on their phone that they can use for mental health, emotional health, health and wellness. It has meditations on it. It has articles. It has talks on it. And it has group virtual sessions. So the sessions, people can come into these sessions and learn different things about health and wellness or about themselves to try to move along in the journey. Everybody who comes in there, no one can see them. It's all anonymous. So they might come in from different health systems. And I tell them every time you come in here, you help yourself a little bit more. And they really have been, Cabana has been getting accolades. But what I did was I brought nurse coaching to Cabana. So Cabana was working with groups of nurses, but what we wanted to do was help individuals with stress. And started working with staff nurses, and it did help them, but there are so many, one-on-one, it's very expensive, to work with, work that way in a health system to try to find money for that. So we said, and some health systems said, hey, if we worked with managers in the middle, then we could maybe make some changes there, and they can make changes with their staff or their administrators. Because managers are in the middle. Managers, I feel, and I could be wrong, but I feel they're actually the key to the change in healthcare, because they see things from above and they see things, I don't like to say below, because if we didn't have staff, nothing would run. But they see both sides, and what they need is permission to manage, permission to do it their way. And they don't really realize they have that. So they have 10 meetings on their calendar in a day. They need to understand they don't have to go to those 10 meetings. They can pick which ones, because they know what they need and what they don't, and what they need to do to take care of their staff. So I help them with that. We use the 3 principles to help them see things a different way. I can't fix their system, but I can help them while they're moving through it to survive and even to have a good life and not to feel like they can fix the people coming into the system.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so that's what we say at Hutt Place Hospital. So we support those in the front line to heal their wounds and then learn to advocate for themselves and others and then craft a life that best suits them. So that's what you're saying about that middle manager. Like they can choose which meetings they go to. They can start advocating for themselves, and when they do that, then they can start advocating for others. And through that process, it gives you space to actually start unlearning some of the conditioned beliefs that they've got us to survive to this point, but they no longer serve in this new way of living, and with the technology that we have, and with everything that the world's been through in the last 4 to 5 years. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I saw this coming for a while, and I thought, does no one see this coming?
yeah,
And people did see it, but they didn't know that they were right.
yeah.
So, I was talking to a manager last week, first time, and she didn't realize she was doing things the right way. She needs to learn communication skills, which I think is one of the biggest things that we can learn. And it's simple, but it takes practice. But if we can so I teach the 10 steps to communication.
Oh,
But I have to tell you a little story about so I have to tell you a little story that I told her. When I was a young nurse in the early 80s, I worked at neuro on the floor. We had medicine cabinets. I'm not sure. I mean, different countries might still have this, but you open up the medicine cabinets and all the bottles are there, and you take your little paper cup and you write the room number on the bottom of the cup, and then you pick out your medicines. And we were so busy and had so much to do, I realized, hey, I can give most of my 8s, 10s, and 12s at 10, unless they're timed for whatever reason. I can do that. And that will save me so much time standing at this medicine cabinet, checking the boxes and doing this thing. Well, now nurses can't do that because they are controlled by a machine, a Pyxis or another type of machine with a wand where they have to scan things and it comes in a package. And I really feel for them. There's nothing wrong with nurses. There's nothing wrong with healthcare providers. It's the system, right?
yeah, that's what I say, because people say, "Oh, there's a shortage of nurses," and I'm like, "No, there's not a shortage of nurses. There's just a whole lot of nurses that no longer want to work within that system." So yeah, but like you're right. I feel like we're watching the Roman Empire crumble, and we're starting to see the Renaissance come through, and there are so many of us, you and I included, who are grassroots solutions, who are creating these grassroots solutions, so that there might be a liminal space, a little crunchy in between, but me too. I had that auspicious bewilderment about 9 years ago, and then the COVID days really solidified that message that was coming through, that things needed to have, some grassroots solutions needed to be built, which Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right. Right. So you were in one place in nursing, and then something happened and you switched to something else, but it took a while.
Oh, like you, it's been following breadcrumbs, and it's been like a snake and ladders, snakes and ladders. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'd love to ask next. What's it been like? Have I found that I've climbed ladders and then slid down snakes through the process, and I'm just wondering if there's been times of frustration or times of people not really understanding or believing kind of your vision.
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. Um, it's been difficult because you often feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you often feel like this is never going to go anywhere. Sometimes I still feel that way, but I don't worry about it anymore. Maybe it's because I'm older. I don't know. There have been some nurses at the last holistic nursing conference I went to. There were actually nurses starting integrative departments in their hospitals, which is amazing. My local hospital doesn't have any, well, they tried to have something like that, but it wasn't. And one thing they mentioned, and they were successful, is that they felt alone and they felt like it was never going to move forward. And even at that time when they were talking about it on stage, they felt that way. They still felt that way. And so what I say is, you know, in your heart, it's the right thing. If you feel it there, when you start to move up into your head, that's when, you know, you lose confidence. I wouldn't say it's a big money maker for most people, despite what some people will say on like Facebook or LinkedIn. It has to be from the heart. And if it is, I think it's going to get better. I know it's going to get better.
Me too. Me too.
Right? Yeah. So I would say that's how it's been. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And so tell us a little bit also about the technology, this ring and the app that's been created. Is that like an aura ring?
Yeah, have you heard of the Aura? It's not the Aura Ring, and that's very popular. It's very popular among millennials, and
Yes.
yes, so it's like that. It has technology. Now, I don't know, I can't say I know all the details about it because it's one of those things that's rolling along, but this is what I do know is it's a ring that measures stress before you realize you're having stress. And we all know people who study trauma, that by the time we recognize it, it's already in our body and it's created a tension point. And I usually say, like, it's a tension point in your body. It's not a muscle, but it's in a part of your body, whether it's a blood vessel, an organ, a muscle, a bone, any place. It deposits itself through your nervous system and sits there. And every time something comes up that's similar, we might even not recognize it's similar. The tension starts again. So what this does is it recognizes it. So before it happens, so we can see, oh, that might be the thing causing me tension. I need to look at that. And that can right away, especially for younger people, that can help to get it out of their body. But the other thing the app has is it watches, you know, your stress, and it has resources on there saying, you know, based on you and what you have going on, we think you should do yoga, or we think you should try another one of these meditations that you did before because it worked for you. Now it's also connected to nurse coaches. So there are 25 nurse coaches. There are fitness trainers. There are some nutritionists. I'm pretty sure there's some social workers, but there are counselors that are attached to this program that are moving forward. And so if somebody wants to talk to a nurse to do some care coordination, or if somebody can't afford, maybe they feel, you know, uncomfortable. And I'm not even sure if there's a fee associated to the coach, but there is a fee associated, like I think it's a monthly fee to the ring. Now it hasn't started yet; it's beginning in January. So right now the rings are being pre-ordered. So if somebody's interested in looking at this more, they would go to Ayer Systems, AYUR systems.com, and it will give them some idea. And I think there's a ring order something right there. But or they can look me up. I think I have stuff on my Instagram right now, but I'm so excited about, I really think this is something because, and there may be other things like this outside of the health system. In other words, outside of the hospital and the clinics there needs to be something else for the community, and it needs to work. And nurses know what to do. They know, you know, a lot of times, especially after a nurse has worked a year or two, they get a report on a patient, or somebody tells them some stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, I see what's going on. Let's try this and this. Well, where it would take a person maybe 3 doctor's visits, maybe a trip to the ER, Googling for 3 hours, worrying throughout the day because they don't know what that thing is that they might have, which usually is not much. But you don't know that, right? So stress, worry causes stress, and then it's a whole cycle. So
Yeah.
what if they had this ring? It gave them data, it gave them information, it gave them maybe groups they can attend, and then it gave them a nurse coach they can connect with and make a plan. How much easier that would be, and it's all online. Now,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes we may talk to somebody and say, oh, you need to go to the emergency room right now. Or, oh, go ahead and make an appointment with your doctor. Oh, you don't have a doctor? Well, this is how you find a doctor. It's this type of doctor and so forth.
Mm.
Right?
I think a lot of it is actually navigating the health system. So a lot of conversations that I have with people, like a lot of people don't realise that there are avenues to go down to access the specific support they need, and that sometimes in our system that there's funded avenues as well. So it's a lot to navigate, and I think now for us in New Zealand, and I think this is worldwide, because there is such a colossal amount of burnout within our frontline workers, those who are still within the kind of hospital type system, it's people are waiting even if because we do have funded health system here, and then we have private system which generally you can get into straight away, but people even with their private health insurance are being challenged to get into the health system within weeks or months. So there's a real crisis occurring, and a lot of it is down to staff, is down to actually the production, the operation.
Mm. We have a lot of our emergency rooms being overloaded with a lot of people with mental health issues.
Us too. Yeah, our EDs, they're getting closed, like their capacity and having to close. And so apart from our major cities, which we don't have many major cities, you just have one ED. So it's a long way to go to the next one. It's not like you just go to the next suburb for another ED department. So yeah, lots of mental health. Accumulation of what's been happening in the last few years, and in New Zealand, believe it or not, we actually have the highest youth and male suicide rate in the OECD. So what you're talking about with these technologies is really important, because we're actually needing to build people's resilience and understanding and celebration of their body and mind, because for so long we've relied on going and asking someone else what is needed. So this is where people can get really empowered with these types of technology, or like you say, with nurse coaching, someone walking alongside them and actually guiding them.
Right. And if someone feels suicidal, they can't see the forest for the trees, so they need somebody to be with them while they're in that very dark place for as long as they need it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm loving about a loving organisation. So as much as it's about love and compassion, it's also about walking alongside someone and providing them actionable tools, so that it's not just enabling them to be an unwell person. It's actually enabling them to take action to support their well-being again. And then what I'm also loving now a lot of, and I'm curious to hear if you're having this too, for so long the work that we do at Heart Place Hospital is all about burnout, whereas now we're getting lots of probably 50% actually around actually wanting risk reduction and prevention of disease. So it's cool. It's just now getting people who are really committed to actually investing in understanding and celebrating their body and mind, so that they can be their own best healer, and obviously use the guides and doulas and stewards and healers if needed, but actually understanding how to navigate that system.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Cabana, the contract I have with Cabana, they're actually finding that more people with chronic disease are engaging.
Oh.
And that's interesting because they want to get better. And I agree. I think people know what they need. They need explanations and they need to understand how it works, on the outside, but they know inside what they need. And we
Auspicious.
need to allow them to explore it.
Yeah,
Well,
auspicious bewilderment.
auspicious
Yeah,
bewildered.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
they really do.
It comes through all of us. We all have it. We all get this deep knowing, this inner knowing. However, we haven't lived in a lifetime where that's being honoured and celebrated. It's changing. That's the big change I'm seeing. Is more and more people saying, "Well, what do you need? What do you think?" And then
Yeah.
coming in with the expertise of being able to navigate and connect, actually provide connection
Yes.
to people. Yeah, because some people. And that's Heartland Hospital. We're very bespoke, very unique. We meet people where they're at, and for some people they want one-on-one support. Others want group work. Others want to listen to something. Others might want to just read something. So we meet people where they're at, rather than
Yeah.
one size fits all. Yeah.
So do you meet them in person then?
Whatever,
More?
whatever works. So we triage them through our portals, and then if depending on what part of the country they're in, and depending on what support they're needing, sometimes they actually come through and say, "This is I already know someone I'd like to work with, and I'd like to connect you with them, so they're part of your network." So it's very collaborative, very meeting each other with each other's expertise and meeting in what I call a healing round table. So there's no one at the top of the table. We're all meeting each other with our expertise and creating a bespoke, unique, personalised plan for that person. Mm.
Mm. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and just like you're saying with the middle management, so we work with people who work in the on the floor, so right in front of vulnerable citizens, so nurses, teachers, doctors, midwives, and everybody in between. And once, like I said, once they've started healing their boundary wounds and advocating for themselves and others, and have crafted a life that works for them, then that ripple effects off out to the 30, 40 people that they support each day. Then that ripple effects off out into those 30, 40 people's families and friends. So it's a really speedy way to create the change that's needed right now.
Yeah, I love that because they feel it. I remember having in 2008, I had a class with nurses in the hospital. I said, when you put your hands on people, they feel how you feel, and you're feeling how they feel, and you're in each other's bubble, and you don't even know it.
No, I know. I had a nurse that we've been supporting come through last week, and she's a specialty nurse, been a nurse for 35 years, and she's in a more rural part of the country, so has a huge catchment. And she's like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to tell all my patients what I've just learned about myself." And she said, I'm not going to have to see them as much. And I'm like, I know. Yeah.
Right.
So the ripple
Yeah,
effect is just, it's just huge. It's
huge.
colossal. It's colossal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think more people are feeling that way. And so the next step is to learn how to tell, because they want to tell other people, right? They feel different. They have an insight. They want to tell other people, but other people might not be there.
Yeah.
So they need to know how to communicate to those people, or just to experience themselves, and people will ask them, and to have the confidence to know that other people will get there. And then there's a nurse theorist named Jean Watson in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, Jean,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
she has a Caritas caring theory, and the gist of it is we heal through connection. You know, and there's a path that goes through us that we don't understand. I studied healing touch, and I'm sure that you've said something similar, maybe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Reiki or something like that.
Yeah. I've done Reiki and Atua healing and all sorts of other body work.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, so we start to understand that it flows through us to others. Yeah.
Mm, it does. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think most people can always identify like a teacher from their school days that was pretty pivotal. And, there was always that one teacher who was just very compassionate and gentle and encouraging. And that's what we want more of. We don't want just the one. We want
Right.
more of
We do, just the
but
one, right?
but we all know why we haven't got more of those, because the system hasn't supported that. So
Right.
and going back to your point about the communication, I think it's also and this is what comes out of the work you do, the work we do, is that there is a community. So when you do come, because you do shift, like when you do heal those boundary wounds, you go from more of your victim mentality to quite a liberated person. So you do look you do come across as quite a different person. And so it is important to have community that you can be held through that integration, because there's integration through this work.
Yeah.
That's not like do the work next, like tick the box. It's actually like, whoa, so something shifted here. And so that's where the community is really important, I believe, is so that people can lean into.
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, well, that's why I like a loving organization, because just being connected to that idea and people who also agree with that idea can
Mm.
spread. But interestingly, I have a group of women. There's 5 of us. We've known each other for about 20 years. There was a larger group, and we have worked really hard to be connected, to support each other, to be there for each other. And we have shifted. It's like when you have an insight or a suspicious, what is suspicious?
Bewilderment.
Yes. When you have that, so suppose one of the friends in the group has that or is struggling, we will sometimes support them or sometimes leave them to figure it out themselves and honor the fact that they will figure it out. And we've all been through that in the group. So we realize that we're all doing that. It's like we're rebalancing ourselves, or we're figuring things out. And so, but to have that connection always, and we've even had 2 or 3 times where we've had a counselor come in and communicate with us, to have us communicate with each other, to see what we needed and to see what others needed, which is really cool. So, and a lot of women say, oh, I wish I had that. Well, they can have that, but it does take work. And
Yeah.
I think maybe it would be good to have guidance in that, but to have groups, because we're moving towards community, right? And so how to have a community, it doesn't just happen. It takes work.
Yeah. Yeah. And through that journey that you've had, to me, it's unconditional love. So regardless of how one of those women have shown up, you've still held space for her, and
Yeah.
then you've brought in guidance, some expertise, because we really weren't guided through our really formative years on how to friend, on how to communicate, on how to express our emotions safely.
Right. We weren't. We don't know how to do it. We didn't really come from that kind of mindset, but we're moving towards that type of mindset.
We are definitely, yeah, and it's beautiful
Yeah.
seeing these young parents raising their families very much as equals, like really holding space for each other wherever they are at that given time, and that there isn't bad and wrong, there isn't broken. And that all these parts make up our wholeness. So yeah, it's beautiful to see, and that'll ripple effect just beautifully, so quickly across the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I look at it the same way. We're perfect the way we are, but through life, I picture this like, this might sound kind of strange, but it's an evergreen tree and it's beautiful, but it gets covered up with sticky notes, like problems through life, and they get stuck on there, and then it gets covered up and all over, and you can't even see it. And so one by one, we have to uncover those things, through our whole life. And every time we do, we can see more of our beauty.
Oh, I love that.
That's just a picture that
Yeah,
I got.
yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I like that a lot. Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Anne. It's been lovely to talk to you. I just wondered if we could end with, I like to ask our guests, like, what's something that's coming up in your heart place, and that you could share with our listeners, and how can people find you?
What's coming up is I love talking to people in other countries, and I'm so happy to hear that people there are feeling what we're feeling here. Maybe more than we are here. I'm not sure. I mean, I have 3 children. They all live in different countries, so it's different in other countries. But I think it's changing, and I am really hopeful about
Mm,
that.
mm.
Yes. If someone wants to talk to me, I would go to my website, healthbyanemarie.com, because that's my first name, Anne Marie. And there's something where you can book a discovery session, and just a free 30 to 60-minute session to see how I do love to work with healthcare providers and nurses, although I love working with anybody, and people always do better because I help them to see the good in them. So yeah, if they go to that and just book a discovery session, they can meet me on Zoom. So they can be from
Beautiful.
any place.
Totally. I think, to be honest, I think a lot of people are watching America at the moment, to see what, yeah, because it really does ripple effect off definitely down to us and around the world. So I think there's a lot of us keeping a very close eye on what comes out of the changes. So yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a hope merchant and a love rock star, and that's the frequency I choose to be in, is in love frequency, not fear frequency. So
Yes. And I would say to people out there moving forward over the next couple years to try to stay in that love frequency
mhm.
and stay connected to yourself, and try not to go outside yourself too much except to your community that you resonate with, because it is going to be okay. Things are going to be okay.
Yeah,
It's just that it's very bumpy right now.
it is. It is.
Right. And if I don't know if I could give a plug for Cornelius because he's helped me
Oh,
so much. Mine.
yeah.
So I connect with Cornelius Christopher on from New Zealand, and he does would you call them meditations? They're groups, they're 30-minute sessions, and then he teaches for another 30 minutes and helps us understand exactly what Jackie's talking about, and helps that when you meditate or when you sit in a group, and he does it very differently, but it works. And I know it works because, I've seen it work and I understand. So I would say, maybe connect with that. Try it for a month. See how it feels. And it changed my life. And it was already changing. But yeah, so Thank you for letting me do that. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yeah. Oh, well, lovely to connect again, Anne, and I'll see you in a loving organisation soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie. It was great talking with you. And yes, I'm going to continue with the loving organization because we need it right now.
Yeah, we do need it right now. And anyone who's listening, please, I'll put a link to a loving organisation as well. Please connect into it because it's growing, and that's what we need. Lots of love. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Great.
Beautiful. Thanks, Anne. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.